Imagine a fantasy landscape where every morning is Christmas morning and every evening Christmas Eve. Imagine that Christmasland is ruled over by an evil old man, a kind of vampire named Charles Manx. Imagine that Charles Manx has the extraordinary ability to travel between our world and other worlds. Imagine that Charles Manx gets off on stealing children from our world and taking them to Christmasland, where they become monsters like he is and live with him forever. Christmasland is at the heart of the deeply imaginative novel I recently finished, NOS4A2 by Joe Hill. In this book, Charles Manx is our antagonist, the evil kind of vampire man, who has the extraordinary ability, using his deep imagination, to travel between our world and other worlds. Our antagonist here, or our protagonist rather, is Victoria McQueen. She's our good woman in this book. And Victoria McQueen also has this extraordinary ability through her fantastical imagination to travel to other landscapes, external worlds. Victoria McQueen has an encounter, this is no spoiler, with Charles Manx early on in this book, and it becomes her priority throughout this book to try to stop him from kidnapping children and taking them to his fantasy world with him. And she even has to try to defend her own son from Charles Manx in this book. There is a lot going on in this book as Charles Manx is stealing kids with his sidekick, the gas mask man, who wants nothing more than an eternity as a reward for serving Charles Manx in Christmasland. He wants to go there and rule over the children with Manx for all eternity. Victoria McQueen travels to and fro with these other worlds throughout this book. And it's really a treat reading this book, the deep imagination that is Joe Hill. I couldn't predict what was going to go on next in this book. There was so much happening with Victoria and with Charles Manx and her son Wayne and the lovely Lou, who is her kind of partner in this book. Before you know it, the FBI is involved, and there is so much going on in this Joe Hill novel that I just can't even start to get into it here, or I'll run on for probably an hour. I gave this book a 4-star review. I was surprised at how fun this book was. It's a lengthy one, nearly 700 pages in hardback, and Joe Hill does a great job keeping the ball rolling as far as the interest and the suspense and wanting to know what's going to happen next in this book. This was totally different than I thought it was going to be in the first few pages, and I really enjoyed it. I'm not a stranger to stopping a lengthy book and just tossing it aside if it's not keeping me interested. And this book does a great job. I really liked Vic McQueen in this book. Joe Hill does a great job constructing her personality. I felt that she was real in this book, and I sympathized with her and her struggle in this book. Joe Hill does a great job in this book portraying Charles Manx, not only his evil, self-obsessed, vampiric part of his personality, but I liked the way Joe Hill made him human in this book. There's so many extraordinary things going on in this book, but one thing that I will say about it is that I didn't feel that it was stupid and implausible and ridiculous. Of course it's fantastical, but I liked the fact that Joe Hill made this book real for me. NOS4A2 is a very strange and unusual and different book, and Joe Hill shows that he's a master of putting his deep imagination onto the pages of this book. I liked the characters. I felt they were well developed and real in this book. I felt the dialogue amongst characters was authentic. And the best thing about this book is the deeply imaginative way Joe Hill goes about describing Christmasland and the other places that are visited in this book. People are jumping back and forth between the worlds in this book, Charles Mank and Vic McQueen, and it becomes her mission to stop him in this book, and it's just a lovely novel. I give this book 4 stars. I'm going to stop it right here. The plot is so vast and detailed and fantastic that if I started describing it, it would be a mistake here. So I'm keeping it spoiler-free with NOS4A2. I give it a 4-star review. Joe Hill, son of Stephen King, if you aren't already hip to that fact, does a great job following in his father's footsteps with this book, as far as I'm concerned, penning a lengthy novel that was nonetheless suspenseful and fantastic. NOS4A2, I give it a 4-star review. Please subscribe to me if you haven't already. Thanks, friends.